there in Nostalgia Land. I'm Chuck Schaden, and we've come in this Kaiser automobile to Janesville, Wisconsin for a Kaiser-Frasier meet. And during the next hour, you're going to know everything you ever wanted to know about Kaiser and Frasier automobiles. So stick around. We'll be back in 1 minute. Don't touch that channel.
Some stores have people confused. They use the element of surprise and offer one-hour sales that you just seem to have always missed. At the Superstore, we feel our customers deserve plenty of time to save on TVs and appliances. It's our policy at the Superstore to save you money every day of the year. At the Superstore, we feature GE refrigerators, ranges, washers and dryers. GE appliances feature satisfaction guaranteed. Shop the store with super choices.
Come to the Superstore, Townhouse TV and appliances, Milwaukee and Oakton.
If Cragen Federal Savings promises a 30-day closing on your mortgage, do you promise to stop worrying? Well, with Cragen's Quick Close Adjustable Mortgage Loan, you get an approval decision within 7 working days after you apply, and the closing date within a very snappy 30 days. Plus, there are no points to pay at closing. So stop worrying and get a hold of Cragen for a low-interest mortgage and a 30-day closing. Promise.
The story of Kaiser-Frasier at Willow Run. Production expertly planned. Kaiser-Frasier planned, producing Kaiser and Frasier cars as fast as quality production permits. In making cars, if the supply of parts breaks down, production stops. To keep their production lines moving, Kaiser-Frasier not only buy from many suppliers, but manufacture many parts themselves. They control vast sources of essential raw materials. They control steel plants and rolling mills. A complete engine plant. They make their own bodies at Willow Run. Kaiser-Frasier make many of their own parts, and so help ensure the supply of materials from beginning to end of their production line. And that's part of the story of what's being done at Willow Run in Michigan. The basic production story that explains why Kaiser-Frasier dealers can and are delivering now. Yes, go to your Kaiser-Frasier dealer. You can choose the car you like best. The Kaiser, the Frasier. And remember, your Kaiser-Frasier dealer is delivering now.
This is the Kaiser we drove out here to Janesville, Wisconsin, and it belongs to my friend Mike Moore, who not only has a Kaiser but a Frasier, and you've been a member of the Kaiser-Frasier organization for how long, Mike?
Well, since 1971, Chuck, which called when I bought my first Kaiser, I all of a sudden found out there was a club that catered to nuts like us.
Well, there are a lot of nuts like us out here today.
It's a whole parking lot full of them.
Yeah, well, tell us something about the Kaiser-Frasier organization.
Well, the Kaiser-Frasier organization, Henry Kaiser was a shipbuilding industrialist that made a lot of money, started out building Hoover Dam. And after the Second World War, he wanted to get into the lucrative car business. So he got together with Joseph Fraser, who was running the Graham Page organization at the time. And they put together a car styled by Dutch Darren, brought it out in about 1946. It was actually a 1947 model. And they became the 6th largest manufacturer of automobiles in the United States, far surpassing companies like Packard, Hudson, Studebaker. They were selling more cars than DeSoto and Chrysler. And by 1949, they were in that position. Well, they worked on a new model for 1951, which this is one of, which was the last model they ever built with some changes through 1955. The whole history of the company takes place over a period of approximately 9 years.
The entire history of the company is in that short period of time.
Well, with the exception of the fact that the dies for the 55 Kaiser were taken down to Argentina, and the same car was built down there to 1962 under the name of the Kaiser Carabella, under the leadership of Juan Perón and his lovely wife, Evita. So the company came into being when there was a great shortage of automobiles after the Second World War. And they had a product that was priced a little bit higher than Ford, Chevy, and Plymouth. It was priced with Oldsmobile, Chrysler, Buick. It was a medium to high-priced car, but automobiles were hard to get, and they were able to sell every one they could build. Now, Joseph Fraser was an automobile man, and he knew that one of the days coming up in about 1949, the cars in production would catch up with the demand. So he decided they would back off production, make fewer of them, and they might be in business today if they did that. Henry Kaiser wasn't interested in that. Henry Kaiser was interested in building more and more cars every year. As a result, they were the 6th largest manufacturer of cars in 1948. By 1949 and early 50, they had yards full of these cars. And they were always selling last year's cars next year with new serial plates on them, and that was the downfall of the company, is what it was.
They just didn't do anything new from year to year, mostly.
That's right. They couldn't afford to because they had too many left over from the year before. Plus, Kaiser and Fraser, Joseph Fraser and Kaiser split up in 1951. Kaiser didn't like the fact that Fraser wanted to retrench a little bit. Fraser took an honorary chairmanship job, you know, one of these do-nothing jobs, and the next thing you know, he was out of the company. And Kaiser forged ahead, building all the cars he could, selling about half what he made. And, you know, after a couple of years of that, they started losing dealers, they started losing loyalty, and, of course, by 1953, 1954, General Motors and Ford had one of the biggest sales campaigns in their history out. They were looking to sell automobiles. And of course, a lot of the independents, not only Kaiser and Fraser, but Studebaker, Packard, Hudson, Nash, Hudson, they all suffered because of that. During their history, they came out with a lot of firsts. They came out with a Traveler. That's a car with a hatchback on it that doubles as a station wagon. They came out with the world's first economy car in 1951, the Henry J, which was a 4-cylinder economy car that sold for $1,299 when everybody was buying big V8s and flashy automobiles. So they had a lot of things that were ahead of their time, but sometimes you're just a little too far ahead of the market.
Well, I guess that's the way it is sometimes with all of that sort of thing. But amazingly, in that short 8 or 9 year period, they made quite an impact on America, I guess, with the Kaiser automobiles, the Fraser automobiles. Could you have any idea how many were manufactured altogether?
Approximately 750,000. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot when Chevrolet or Ford makes 1 million cars a year, but in those days, there were companies like Buick and Oldsmobile that made 200,000 cars a year, 300,000 cars a year. So for a new company to come up and build, I believe it was 750,000 Kaisers in a, let's see, that was I'm sorry, they built more cars than that, Chuck. I remember seeing a photograph of some cars on a truck, and I believe it was a banner on the Kaiser. It said like the 750,000 built. Then there was one on the Fraser that said the 250,000 built. I believe they built over 1 million cars. I want to correct that.
But still, that's not a lot of cars.
It's still not a lot of cars for that period of history, because you're talking about a 9 to 10 year period of history. So you're talking about less than 100,000 cars a year.
How many, do you have any idea, survive today?
Well, out of all these Kaisers and Frasers and Henry J's that were built, there are approximately 2,000 to 2,500 in the Kaiser-Fraser Club that we know about. I would say worldwide, and there were cars built in Europe. And I would say there was, maybe 5,000 cars total in some sort of condition. Not all of them are like this one, not all of them are running. But I would say there would be 5,000 cars around.
And a bunch of them are out here.
That's right. I'd say there's about 50 or 60 cars out here today at this meet.
Well, we're going to take a closer look at some more of these cars. Now, I thank you for driving us up here to Janesville to take a look at these beautiful cars.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mike Moore. Nothing gives you a surer financial foothold than the Kragen Guaranteed Growth CD. You see, Kragen Federal Savings guarantees that your rates will climb every year for 3.5 years, even if market rates go down. If the market rates happen to go up, no problem. You can bail out at the end of any year without penalty. Increasing rates plus a chance to escape. With this kind of sure footing against ups and downs, you just can't kick. Well, maybe once.
Some stores have people confused. They use the element of surprise and offer one-hour sales that you just seem to have always missed. At the Superstore, we feel our customers deserve plenty of time to save on TVs and appliances. It's our policy at the Superstore to save you money every day of the year. At the Superstore, we feature Zenith TVs and Zenith video recorders. Zenith, the quality goes in before the name goes on. Shop the store with super choices.
Come to the Superstore, Townhouse TV and appliances, Milwaukee and Oakton.
We're at the end-of-the-line Caboose Motel in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Here, a trackload of railroad cabooses have been restored on the outside and remodeled on the inside. Deluxe accommodations for rest and relaxation in beautiful Lake Geneva, just 90 minutes from Chicago. Each caboose has a double bed and a sleeper sofa, and each is an individual unit. You'll spend the night in your very own caboose. Plan now for a couple of days of fun that start with the end-of-the-line Caboose Motel in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. 414-248-RAIL.
Ott Swenson's thrill cage drivers give cars a grueling beating, a constant steady pounding, a real test of performance. That's why Swenson picks Henry J. Swenson and his men would rather drive a Henry J than any other car. Here's why. Henry J knee-action front suspension allows each front wheel to step over road bumps independently without transferring shock or movement to the other wheel. And the unusually generous length of spring steel in Henry J springs gives you, the passenger, maximum driving comfort on the roughest roads. Airplane-type shock absorbers mounted inside the coil springs absorb bumps cleanly and prevent annoying bouncing action. Go to your local Kaiser-Frasier dealer and find out why Ott Swenson and so many others look to Kaiser-built cars for longer years of smoother riding. Drive a Henry J today.
We're with the Johnson boys from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. This is Lowell Johnson, and this is his son, Lance Johnson. And these two fellas are the proud owners of two Kaiser automobiles. Now, Lowell, your car is this one, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And what is it?
It's a 1953 Kaiser Dragon, which was a specialty model made up in 1953 primarily for shows and this kind of thing.
How many did they make of this car?
Oh, there probably were 1,000, perhaps maximum of the Dragons, and of this variety, they probably were less than 25.
And this is one of the 25, huh?
Yes, this is right. This is what they call the all-vinyl Dragon, which trim-wise was quite different from the standard Dragons.
The interior is vinyl?
The interior is completely vinyl rather than cloth and vinyl, and the top has a more of a clear type vinyl top on it rather than with the ribs, the bamboo style that the other Dragons had.
Now, Lance, this is from the first year of Kaiser automobiles, right?
Yes, it is.
What year is this?
It's a 1947 Kaiser Special.
And was this a big selling car when it first came out?
When it first came out, it was a very popular car until the other auto companies started to regroup and started selling cars cheaper than Kaiser was able to.
Now, you say this is a 1947 model. I'm looking at you. What model year are you?
1969.
1969. Now, Kaiser was all through building automobiles by the time you were even born.
Oh, yes.
Now, I know you must have an interest in these cars because of your dad's interest, but why, how come you've gone so far to own a car of your own?
Well, I was born in the club, and I figured I'll be in the club the rest of my life, and I grew up in the club, and I saw these cars, and I just loved them, and they kind of grow on you, and it's one of my favorite hobbies.
Do you restore these cars yourself, work on them?
Yeah, I do a lot of work on them, we and my father together.
What kind of work do you do? Everything from scratch to start to finish?
No, we do the light stuff basically, brakes and valves and stuff like that.
Do you take these cars out very often just for pleasure driving?
Oh yeah, very often.
How many miles on this car?
This one has 64,000 miles on it.
Pretty good. How fast can it go? You don't want to admit to that with your father standing here?
He's always been with me when I've had it, so over 70.
Over 70?
Yeah.
Not until they change the laws for travel, though. How fast does this one go?
Oh, this would be in the same era probably. They always claimed they'd go 100 miles an hour, but I think that was downhill, and the Kaiser speedometers were probably 25% off. So.
These were all good cars, though, weren't they?
Yes, they really were quite good, yes.
that they didn't last.
Right, at least some of us think so.
Yeah, but you're preserving them, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing that. We appreciate talking to both of you fellows today.
Thanks a lot.
From Janesville, Wisconsin, we have Dale Hammond, and from Racine, Wisconsin, it's Steve Hilgenberg, and these are fellows who are members of the Kaiser-Frasier Club, but you both here have Frasiers, right?
Right.
Steve, Dale, what is your car? That's this one
Mine's
right
a
here.
47 Rampage Frasier. It's got to be restored completely.
Yes, now, is this the way you found this automobile?
This is the way I found it. I went to Columbus, Ohio, and bought this car because there's only 13 in existence
13.
of this particular model.
How did you hear about it?
I read it in a Kaiser newsletter.
In the newsletter,
Yeah.
and you went all the way out
yeah.
to pick it up, right?
Yes.
And now what are you going to have to do to this?
I got to fully restore it. I plan on taking off the frame, sandblasting the frame, doing the body, the whole works.
Now,
Motor.
will you take this apart piece by piece?
Yes, they all come apart piece by piece.
And will you number it or something so you can get it all back together?
I never do. I just throw them in a box and put them back together.
You'll know how to.
I've done quite a few of them now. So.
How many have you done?
Well, I've probably done 5 or 6 Kaiser-Frasier cars.
Does this restoration go to the interior of the car as well?
I don't do too much interior, no.
Will you restore this though?
Yes.
In the interior?
Yes. Oh,
and
yes.
you'll have somebody else do it for you, is
I
that?
probably, well, I'm experimenting on the interior, so I may do it myself.
How long will it take you to do this, do you think?
Oh, this car, I probably won't have it ready for a couple years yet.
So it's
I just got it running just last week, so I had it for about 3 years now. So.
But you drove it over here today?
Yeah.
And you didn't have many stops in between?
No.
No breakdowns or anything?
No.
Okay. Now, Steve, this car is what?
This is a 1948 Fraser, made in Willow Run, Michigan, along with the Kaisers, and is coming up on 40,000 miles. First time.
First time on 40,000. That's pretty good. And it's long, this is 40 years old.
40 years old, 40,000 miles.
Where did you pick this up?
I bought it in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was sitting in someone's driveway for sale. Front end was apart, and the hood was on it. The fenders were holding on by a couple bolts, and everything else that you see on the front of this car was in the trunk and the back seat. And I basically drove it home and put it back together, and been working on it a little bit here ever since.
And how long is it going to take you to restore this?
Oh, at the rate I'm going, probably another 2 years.
Will you do everything to this? This is pretty...
This one's a lot solider than the Rampage Frasier, so I don't have the room to take it off the frame. So basically, I just finish off the body like I got started on here and paint the car and get a little interior work done that it needs and call it good.
Are you going to have any trouble getting parts that you need?
No, I don't have too much trouble getting parts other than interior parts. Kaiser's had some real fancy interiors.
Well, how do you get the parts that are needed for the interior?
Well, as you can see over there and back there at the different club meets, members bring parts to sell. Then you go to swap meets and buy parts there, and if necessary, you have to go out and have them custom made.
And that's easy to do?
It's not that hard to do. It can be done.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time, both of you fellas, talking with us today about the restoration of these cars. We wanted to show some befores, and now we're going to take a look at some afters. One of the most unusual cars at this Kaiser-Frasier meet is this one that's owned by John Holler. John, what is this? This is a Kaiser...
Traveler.
A Traveler. From what year?
1951.
And why is this so unusual?
Well, it has the silhouette of a four-door sedan, but the rear end opens up like a station wagon.
A station wagon. Was this Kaiser's answer to a station wagon?
Well, I guess you could say that.
How does this open now?
Okay, the lower lid comes down, and the upper lid goes up.
Oh, a little like a hatchback, hmm?
Yeah, right. They came out with this. They came out with this in '49, actually. This particular design.
Here, I might get you out of the camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is the 51 version. So the 49 really was, I guess you could say, America's first hatchback.
Did they make many of these?
Oh, I don't know the actual figures, but not too many compared to their total production.
It's a very interesting car, and I'm glad that you brought it along with today at the Kaiser-Frasier meet.
Well, thank you.
This is a 1954 Kaiser Darren. And we're talking to Ernie and Shirley Ballrood, who are the owners of this car. And Ernie, this is a fantastic sports car for that period of time. Where did you acquire this thing?
This car come from Curtis, Ohio about 5 years ago. We bought it off a gentleman down there. We're second owners of the car, and we've drove it in excess of 5,000 miles since we've had it.
This is rather unique for the Kaiser-Frasier line, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's an all-fiberglass body. It has sliding doors on it. It was comparable. We like to think it's better than the Corvette when it first came out. But it's similar to that. It's a sports car.
And the name, Darren?
Darren comes from Dutch Darren, who was the designer of the car, worked very close with Kaiser-Frasier products from 47 through 1955.
He was way ahead of his time with this car, wasn't it?
Yes. Has a 161 cubic inch engine, 3-speed and overdrive, again, all fiberglass body.
The most unique thing about the car, of course, is the door.
Yes,
the doors, right? Let's see how these work.
Sliding glass doors.
They slide right into the fender. Look at that. Now,
never a chance for door nicks.
No door nicks. That's right. No supermarket shopping car running into this thing, huh?
Come back.
Come back. Bang.
And they latch.
Now, there's a top for this.
The top folds up, it goes back in this compartment right here. It does have side curtains that go in this area right here after you get the top up. They could not put windows in it because of the door sliding into the fender here. So it's strictly side curtains. It's a fair weather car. If you get caught in the rain...
you get wet, right?
You get wet. You better hope it's warm.
Okay, well, this is really a beautiful car, and thank you very much for letting us take a look at it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Some stores have people confused. They use the element of surprise and offer one-hour sales that you just seem to have always missed. At the Superstore, we feel our customers deserve plenty of time to save on TVs and appliances. It's our policy at the Superstore to save you money every day of the year. At the Superstore, we feature Maytag heavy-duty washers and Maytag energy-efficient gas dryers. Nobody builds them like Maytag. Shop the store with super choices.
Come to the Superstore. Townhouse TV and appliances. Milwaukee and Oakton.
The Mysterious Traveler.
The Jimmy Durante Show.
X, minus 1.
Fibber McGee and Molly. The Amos and Andy Show.
Suspense.
Town Hall Tonight. Philco Radio Time.
The Tom Mix Ralston Straight Shooters.
The Guiding Light. Can you top this? Tom Corbett. Space Cadet.
Henry Aldrich. Come in, Mother.
True Detective Mystery.
You'll find a generous helping of memories from and about the good old days at Metro Golden Memories in Chicago. We have a complete selection of records and cassette tapes from the fabulous big band era, plus thousands of personality recordings by your favorite singers. We offer a gigantic collection of books about the movies and the stars from those wonderful days of not so long ago. At Metro Golden Memories, you'll find a marvelous collection of celebrity statues, plus our famous Maltese Falcon replica, the Oscar look-alike, even Little Nipper, the RCA dog. Hundreds of old-time radio shows on record and tape. And lots of books about radio and television, too. Posters of your favorite movies and movie stars. And videotapes of the classic films from Hollywood's golden age. Hundreds in stock for sale or rent. All this and more at Metro Golden Memories, 5425 West Addison Street, just 2 miles west of the Kennedy Expressway in Chicago. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Sunday from noon to 5. Come in and browse.
Here is a great automobile story, a great automobile plant, and a great automobile struggle. That's the plant of Kaiser-Frasier Incorporated. We all know, of course, the great story of the old Henry J. Kaiser, the shipbuilder, etc. What he did. He's built a $600 million empire, and he has sales of various commodities that run into $500 million a year.
Back in 1945, he decided to go into the automobile business. Things looked pretty good, and he found that he was in a terrific fight because the automobile, or at least a terrific problem on his hands, because the automobile industry is notoriously one of the toughest to crack in the country. But they're still in there and still cracking. And this plant you see behind me here is the great Willow Run plant where these cars are made. But the most interesting thing about it is they're also making planes out there for our Air Force at the moment. In other words, they're making guns and butter simultaneously with the planes and the automobiles coming down the assembly line practically together. But let's get inside that plant and take a look at the making of the Kaiser-Frasier cars. There's the executive office sign showing us where we are out at Willow Run. And at key points throughout the vast acreage of the plant, and it is vast acreage, the creation of the car begins. Here's the assembly of the body of the automobile. Prior to this, the floor pans and roofs and hoods have been stamped out. Now they're being fed to the line. And now the doors are added. The doors were originally made by another branch of Kaiser, the Kaiser Metal Products Company near Philadelphia. The doors join the line here as the car begins to take shape. Other lines carrying component parts, chassis, engine, trim, and so forth keep pace converging at various points. Here the roof is joined to the body, and now you see the windshield put into place. And right here you're going to see the most dramatic phase. Turning out of a car, that's the body drop, so-called, the lowering of the body into place. At this point, this body, which has traveled along a separate line, is joined for the first time with the chassis. By now, the chassis contains the four wheels, the engine, the steering column, and other basic equipment. Here's the front of the car coming down. It, too, has been traveling its own private line until it joins the main line here. Kaiser-Frasier is the only auto plant, where bodies are stamped, shaped, assembled, upholstered, painted, and trimmed under one roof. A total of 84 presses, ranging up to 1,500 tons capacity, stamp the body, roof, and floor panels to feed the body fabricating lines. And so, from this 4 million square foot factory have rolled more than 700,000 of the cars turned out by this company since 1946. Now, the president of this operation is a distinguished gentleman indeed. He's one of the sons of old Henry J. Edgar F. Kaiser. You know, in all the history of business, and as a matter of fact, the history of the arts, almost nowhere has a great son turned out a great father. This happens to be one exception, and I'm saying this at the risk of embarrassing the gentleman. Edgar Kaiser is 43 years old. Alumnus of the University of California, class of 1929. He was turned out an engineer and worked first on the great dams and other projects of the Kaiser enterprises. But when his daddy got into this tough automobile business, he moved him in as general manager of Kaiser-Frasier in 1936. He became president in 1949, and now let's go over and meet him. May I present, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Edgar F. Kaiser, president of Kaiser-Frasier Incorporated.
Thank you, Bill.
How did Kaiser-Frasier get started? Whose idea was it? And why did your daddy decide to go into that business?
Well, you know, Bill, there's one thing I want to say first. You said that a great son turned out a great father. If my father's listening tonight, he's going to love that because he says he's the young man in the business and we're the old men.
Well, he's a grand gentleman. I have met him, and I met your sainted mother, too, and I'm glad to see that he survived this accident out in Tahoe Lake, the job they tried to do on him in recent days.
Well, in answer to your question, Bill, at the end of the war, we had an organization of some 300,000 people. And in that organization, a lot of young men had taken supervisory responsibilities. And my father felt two things. He felt first that a workload should be created for those people, those supervisory people and all the people that could, who had made such a contribution. And he's always had a burning desire to make a contribution in the field of transportation.
Well, now you've had tremendous problems.
We've had problems.
You've had problems of procuring material, right?
That's right.
You've had problems of trying to crash the market with volume sales.
That's right.
Why is... Explain a little of that particular difficulty.
When we started Kaiser-Frasier, it was just after the war, and everyone felt at that time that critical materials would be running out of our ears. Lots of steel, lots of aluminum, all those things. Within 6 months, the whole picture had changed. You know that Kaiser-Frasier, in order to get the car population on the road that it has today, in the period of our history, almost $36 million in premium steel. By that I don't mean black or gray market. I mean shipping it from one place to the other to get the product and acquiring plants to produce pig iron and forms of sheet so that we could get that product on the road.
Well, now, I understand you're making progress. Is that right?
We're making progress. A lot of people say, some critics of ours, that we're going broke, Bill. KF isn't going broke. Just make no mistake about that.
I understand you and your tough old daddy have got your backs up on this thing. It's a matter of pride, and you're going to make it go. Is that right?
That's right.
By the way, what is that ornament in your lapel? It looks like a penny.
Well, Bill, I know there's going to be a lot of Kaiser-Frasier dealers that are glad you asked that question.
Really?
That's emblematic of the Henry J. Lowest price.
Can you see that? Get your hand out of the way.
Full-size, quality car that operates for less than a penny a mile.
Gee, that's quite a commercial.
If I don't wear that, or anybody else in the organization, we're fined $1, Bill.
Is that so? Is this, what's that? Is that a Henry J?
That's a model of the 1952 Henry J.
Well, it looks like a good car, and I know your product is good because I am familiar with it. I'd like, Edgar, if I don't sound too personal, to ask you a personal question. You're the heir apparent to this tremendous empire, which, as I said a moment ago, amounts to $600 million, and I don't know how many different industries. I think most of the people think that the great family fortunes of this country were made back in the 18th and 19th centuries, and outside of the Ford family, haven't been made since and can't be made. But here's one that has been made, and you're going to step into all this tremendous responsibility. How in the world do you feel? Are you afraid of it?
No, I'm not afraid of it, but Bill, there's not just one Edgar Kaiser, heir apparent. First, I've got a brother, Henry Jr.
Well, I know that.
But more importantly, there's about 200 young men that have been with my father and under his direct personal training for almost 20 years. We're a team. He refers to all of us, Henry, my brother, and me, and them, as his boys, his sons. And he always tells us one thing. He says, boys, I can't leave you physical things, but if I teach you how to work, I've left you everything.
That's a perfectly wonderful and inspirational.
Well, you know him, Bill.
And I think a very helpful statement that we all can well afford to take to heart. What kind of shape is he in?
Excellent. Needling us every day.
This great team really stands ready to move in. It's trained and it's loyal, I assume.
Very loyal.
And it's all...
it takes...
I understand this loyalty is very characteristic of Kaiser Help. I understand that your secretary is so loyal that she even left her honeymoon to move in to help you out in some very tough business situations. Is that right?
That is correct. We were on a field campaign, and we told her to stay on the honeymoon, but Mrs. Hornby said no, and she joined us in the middle of the trip.
Well, that certainly is loyalty. I also understand that you put a lot of sweat and perspiration along with the inspiration. They tell me that some little dealer had a problem of some sort in his operation, and he almost fainted when a man walked in the door and said, "I'm Edgar Kaiser. I understand you got a problem here. What is it? Is that true?"
Well, my wife will tell you, Bill. I fly 900 hours a year. That's over a month a year.
Well, I think that's a pretty good picture of how the Kaiser elder and younger operate. And it's been a great pleasure to have you. And I wish you great success with all the Henry J's and all the Kaisers and all the Frasers.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks, Dumont, too.
If Cragen Federal Savings promises a 30-day closing on your mortgage, do you promise to stop worrying? Well, with Cragen's Quick Close Adjustable Mortgage Loan, you get an approval decision within 7 working days after you apply, and a closing date within a very snappy 30 days. Plus, there are no points to pay at closing. So stop worrying and get a hold of Cragen for a low-interest mortgage and a 30-day closing. Promise.
Some stores have people confused. They use the element of surprise and offer one-hour sales that you just seem to have always missed. At the Superstore, we feel our customers deserve plenty of time to save on TVs and appliances. It's our policy at the Superstore to save you money every day of the year. At the Superstore, we feature Quasar TVs and VCRs. One great idea after another from Quasar. Shop the store with super choices.
Come to the Superstore, Townhouse TV and appliances, Milwaukee and Oakton.
We're at the end-of-the-line Caboose Motel in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Here, a trackload of railroad cabooses have been restored on the outside and remodeled on the inside. Deluxe accommodations for rest and relaxation in beautiful Lake Geneva, just 90 minutes from Chicago. Each caboose has a double bed and a sleeper sofa, and each is an individual unit. You'll spend the night in your very own caboose. Plan now for a couple of days of fun that start with the end-of-the-line Caboose Motel in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. 414-248-RAIL.
Easiest Street. You're living on Easiest Street when you own the new 53 Henry J. Corsair, the car that's easiest to own, easiest to run. The Henry J is 39 ways finer for 53. Here's what one smart lady says about her new Henry J.
It's certainly the easiest car to handle, even in the heaviest downtown traffic. My Henry J steers so easily, and it turns around in the shortest circle of any car. That's why it parks so easily in spaces that other cars can't manage. My Henry J's a dream, all right. It's the easiest car to handle. What's more, it's easiest on my pocketbook. Costs only 1 penny a mile for gasoline.
No wonder folks everywhere are moving to Easiest Street. It's time you move to Easiest Street, too.
This is a 1951 Henry J, which was the Kaiser family's sports car or compact car, I should say, right?
Right.
And this is Jack Miller, who is the club historian, I guess, for the Kaiser-Frasier organization. Jack, how old is this club?
This club restarted in 1959. The original Kaiser-Frasier Club was started by a Wisconsin Kaiser dealer to help sell cars in 1947. And as Kaiser diminished in the automobile field, his group disbanded. It was restarted by a few people in Chicago in 1959 and continues today. There are about 1,550 members in the United States, Canada, and several countries overseas.
And so there are a lot of Kaiser and Frasier automobiles all around the world, too.
Somewhere around 5,000 cars is our best guess.
Now, if someone has a Kaiser or a Frasier or a Henry J, or I suppose a Willys, because Kaiser-Frasier made the Willys Jeep too, didn't they?
They made the Willys cars for a few years. Kaiser and Willys merged in 1953, eventually becoming Kaiser Jeep.
Now, if someone has one of those cars, they qualify for membership in this organization.
Well, anyone qualifies for membership who has an interest. You don't have to have a car to be a member.
Oh, so you don't have to restore cars, you don't have to collect cars, you just have an interest. Well, now, how do you become a member?
Well, you can write to Ethel Hammond, who is the secretary for the Midwest Division of the Kaiser-Frasier Owners Club, and she'll be happy to send you a membership application form and other information on the club.
Is there any annual dues or anything like that?
The annual dues are $15 for the National Club, and that includes a monthly newsletter with events, cars for sale, parts for sale, cars and parts wanted, also a quarterly magazine with restoration articles, historical articles on the automobiles, and just general things of that nature.
And you welcome new members.
Oh, by all means.
Okay.
Always happy to have them.
Well, I think we may, after this get-together, I think we may even sign up.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is a 1949 Frasier owned by Art Sabin. And Art, this is an absolutely beautiful car.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is a convertible, and from 1949, it had to be really a real whiz on the street.
Well, it was built. There were only some 65 of them built. And it was the first four-door convertible between the pre-war period and 1961, when Lincoln brought out its four-door convertible. The car was literally hand-built. That is, they would pull a car off the line after it had been pretty well finished, and cut the top off of it, and reinforce the car, and then build the interior and build a mechanism to make it into a convertible. They also added, and most people don't realize that it was around at that time, but they had windows that were operated with the same pump as the top, so that they were hydraulically operated windows. Let me show you. The window is going down. The window goes up, and that noise was the pump. It's the same pump that operates the top. It is the rarest of the Kaiser-Frasier cars, and considered by virtue of its lines and its general appointments and accoutrements the most valuable of the Kaiser-Frasier cars. They built, after all, almost 1 million cars, and this is considered the most desirable.
What would this car sell for back in 1949?
$3,200, which was about, well, within a matter of $500 of what a Cadillac would cost, a Cadillac convertible. And allegedly, there is no absolutes to this, but allegedly they lost $5,000 on every one that they built, even after selling it for $3,200.
Why is that? Why would they?
Because it cost them so much to build it. For example, the frame is reinforced with a Packard-type frame. That is, the manufacturer of frames for four-door convertibles, the best manufacturer made them for Packards, the old 1930s Packards. Kaiser-Frasier needed that reinforced frame. The Packard people would only sell 1,000 of them. Now, it's an interesting story. What happened if they built 65 of these and 43 Kaisers and, well, less than 100 and then less than 200 convertibles between 1949 and 1951. They only built the 49s, 50s, and 51s. What happened to the rest of the frames? Who knows? But they paid $600 a piece for 1,000 frames. So they just lost money. It was a method of getting people into the showroom. They figured they'd build a few of these cars, send them out to the dealers, and they'd bring them into the showroom. Because in 1949, Kaiser-Frasier only one style of car, and that was the four-door style. So they started building variations. You may have seen a Traveler, which is a four-door with the hatchback, America's first hatchback. And they built the convertible, and then they built America's first hardtop, the Virginian. So they were really trying to vary the theme, use the basic four-door car and create variants. This was the most elegant of their variants.
So this was the attraction for people to come into the showroom to see the cars.
The price was, for that time, extremely high, and people looked at a Frasier and said, well, you know, for that kind of money I can get a Cadillac, what do I need a Frasier? But it had certain luxuries. The appointments, there was nothing finer. This is all top-grade leather, the finest leather. It was all hand-sewn, hand-laid up on these seats. The carpeting is thick plush carpeting. Everything was done by hand and with exquisite taste.
And the radio is a beautiful push-button radio,
yes,
I see.
Yes, and the appointments were all there. The windows, the radio, everything was standard. The hubcaps, the large hubcaps. You pick up one of those hubcaps, and it weighs about 4 times the weight of the hubcap of, for example, a standard car today.
When did you acquire this car?
About 2.5 years ago. It was owned by the club historian, who had owned it for 20-some years, and he had restored the car, but it wasn't up to the standard that I wanted it. And I finally, after literally 4 years of cajoling, arm twisting, and baiting him with dollars, got the car away from him down in Georgia. And I flew down there, and that's the adventure, that's the excitement.
Sure.
I flew down there, and the van, a padded, heated van, met me down there, and we drove the car into the van. I dropped the money on him and flew back, and the car 2.5 days later, was back in Chicago. From there, we literally took the car apart. As a matter of fact, I have pictures of it apart to the extent that I was fearful we'd never get it back together again. There were parts, the thing was just taken apart. And by the way, the hydraulic lines in this car that run all over the thing make it look, when we had it all apart, the seats out, everything out, looks like a destroyer at least, you know, with all these lines running around. But we then began to put it back together again. When I say we, I mean the people that eventually, this is the product, and it took a long time. It took 3 months to paint the car. 3 months to paint the car.
Is this the original color of the car?
Oh, yes. If it wasn't, if everything is not original, I lose points. There's nothing on this car that is not correct factory specifications. That's the only way that you can obtain a car that the club and that aficionados of old cars would recognize as authentic. It's got to be authentic.
Now
Everything is
you're
authentic.
talking about the Kaiser-Frasier Owners Club,
yes,
right?
that are most knowledgeable.
Yeah, right.
That are most knowledgeable.
And you talk about losing points or getting points. It's for the quality of the restoration.
Exactly.
Now, you must have won some awards with this car.
Yes, I have. I last national convention, I won a first-place award for the class of car, and it's a prize winner. You know, I don't have any question about that, but I have to, there's something more involved in winning trophies, and that is for someone who is really knowledgeable to step up to the car, look it over with care, and say, you know, it's correct. Now, when they say it's correct, then you've won something bigger than a trophy. Then you've restored the car to the way it looked when it got out of the showroom. And by the way, underneath the car is as clean as you're looking at the car on top. The engine's been detailed so that it's absolutely clean. The bottom side is just like it ran off a Willow Run, the trunk. That's the standard by which one judges a really well-restored car.
Do you take this car out on the road very often?
This is the only time I have taken it out for any distance other than running around the
You drove
block.
to Janesville from Chicago
That's
in the
right.
car?
That's right. And it drove magnificently. It's very quiet. It's very heavy. It weighs 4,000 pounds. And it just drove beautifully. Of course, you have to be careful because people tear at you to see the car, to get closer to it, and it scares you because people come, you know, I don't drive it more than 50 or 55 tops, although it can do more than that. And people dive in and out. Generally, people of my age will recognize the car, or at least get an idea that's a Kaiser-Frasier. Most people think it's a Packard. Younger people never heard of Kaiser-Frasier. So it's fun. It's a great deal of fun.
Well, I think you're having a good time with it, too.
Oh, going to have a great time. We're going to the National in July. Now there, which is in Frederick, Maryland, there I'll put it on a trailer, and I'll trailer it. I would not drive it that far, but the 75 or 80 miles to bring it down here, yes.
You know, I was just going to say, you're taking the car and you don't want to drive it in July because, well, it's a long distance, and first thing that went through my mind was that, well, and there's no air conditioning in here, but here I'm sitting in a convertible, and so you got natural air conditioning.
And there's another thing, too. First of all, you've got these vent windows, which
side windows,
which went out, and you know, you turn these vent windows like that, you open up the vent there, so I've got those there, and you're comfortable. I had a 48 Fraser Manhattan that we drove in the middle of the summer to Wichita, Kansas, 108 degrees. And my wife and I enjoyed the ride. It was not overly hot at all. It was very pleasant. And by the way, we passed a number of cars that were overheating on the way to Wichita, but not ours, not our Kaiser-Frasier.
Shout, get a horse, right?
Exactly.
Or get a Kaiser-Frasier.
Get a Kaiser-Frasier. Their motto was built to beat the best on the road. And they did make a good car. They made a lot of mistakes in business planning. They should have gone with a V8. They didn't. They stayed with the 6. They emphasized safety when nobody cared about safety. They emphasized economy when nobody cared about economy. They zigged when they should have zagged. And the bottom line is they went out of business, out of the automobile business. But meanwhile, you've got a group here of 35 cars representing various years of the Kaiser-Frasier manufacture. At the National Convention, we'll have 125, 140 cars. It's a lot of fun. People who appreciate these old cars, who appreciate the Kaiser-Frasier cars. They're excellent running cars. Many of these cars are driven 100, 150,000 miles without any serious problems.
And how many miles on this car?
That's hard to say because so much restoration has been done. For example, the speedometer and odometer was replaced. It shows 1,300 miles. Realistically speaking, I would guess from my examination of all the components that the car has probably about 30,000 miles on it.
Not too bad.
No, no. I have a 51 Kaiser Deluxe, which is a beautiful car. You've seen one out here, a black one, with 13,000 original miles on it. It's a new car.
Nice to spend some time with you talking about a love of yours.
Very pleasant, Chuck, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Art.
Thank you.
Okay, okay. All right, here we go. Break. Got it. All set?
Some stores have people confused. They use the element of surprise and offer one-hour sales that you just seem to have always missed. At the Superstore, we feel our customers deserve plenty of time to save on TVs and appliances. It's our policy at the Superstore to save you money every day of the year. At the Superstore, we feature tap-in gas ranges, tap-in for Cook Easy, Clean Easy features, plus continuous or self-cleaning ovens. Shop the store with super choices.
Come to the Superstore. Townhouse TV and appliances. Milwaukee and Oakton.
You'll find a generous helping of memories from and about the good old days at Metro Golden Memories in Chicago. We have a complete selection of records and cassette tapes from the fabulous big band era, plus thousands of personality recordings by your favorite singers. We offer a gigantic collection of books about the movies and the stars from those wonderful days of not so long ago. At Metro Golden Memories, you'll find a marvelous collection of celebrity statues, plus our famous Maltese Falcon replica, the Oscar look-alike, even Little Nipper, the RCA dog. Hundreds of old-time radio shows on record and tape. And lots of books about radio and television, too. Posters of your favorite movies and movie stars. And videotapes of the classic films from Hollywood's golden age. Hundreds in stock for sale or rent. All this and more at Metro Golden Memories, 5425 West Addison Street, just 2 miles west of the Kennedy Expressway in Chicago. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Sunday from noon to 5. Come in and browse. Nothing gives you a surer financial foothold than the Kragen Guaranteed Growth CD. You see, Kragen Federal Savings guarantees that your rates will climb every year for 3.5 years, even if market rates go down. If the market rates happen to go up, no problem. You can bail out at the end of any year without penalty. Increasing rates plus a chance to escape. With this kind of sure footing against ups and downs, you just can't kick. Well, maybe once.
Stop taking chances on the road. Start driving America's first safety-first car, the new 53 Kaiser Manhattan. Only Kaiser gives you the world's safest front seat with stronger, slimmer corner posts that eliminate blind spots, plus a new safety-first frame and chassis. See the new Kaiser at your dealers now.
The car of tomorrow today. This is a 1951 Kaiser, and it's owned by Ken Atkins of Onamia, Minnesota?
Onamia. It's up in the Chippewa Indian Reservation in northern Minnesota.
Now, Ken, you've come to this Kaiser-Frasier meet with, among other purposes, to sell this car, right?
Right. I've been coming to these meets for many years, and all at once I wound up with 8 cars and only room for 6 in my garage. And so I have to dispose, my wife says I have to dispose of 1 or 2 of them. And
the wives are always the heavies, aren't they? They really tell you to get rid of another car again.
We try to make it look like that at least, you know. But this is a good automobile. I've owned it since it was new.
Now this is a 1951.
51, and this is the year that they changed the body style. Mm-hmm. Kaiser had the old box style previous to this, and then they came with this body style.
It's a little more rounded style,
well,
right?
and the sleek future, look of the future is what it was. And the other industry didn't follow. Chrysler followed with it in 67, but that was the closest to it. But they produced a great number of these cars. This was the best year that they had, and it was made at Willow Run, right over around the corner here from Chicago. And it's just been a wonderful car.
Now, this was a car that you bought to use, right?
I bought this car. At the time, I had 3 other ones, and I bought this one for my wife. And I had an automatic transmission. It's got a 4-speed automatic transmission. Just a beautiful car for her to drive. And I had one. My 2 kids had one. And Finally, I just kept this one. Put it away and kept it for about 15 years in storage.
Did you do that because they had stopped making the Kaisers?
Well, that, plus the fact that my youngest boy kind of said that he might like to have it sometime.
Oh, I see, okay.
But in the meantime, I bought a Henry J and a Jeepster and a 53 and a 54 and so on. And he decided he'd like to have one of the other ones better than this one.
Well, you've really been devoted to Kaiser-Frasier automobiles then over all the years.
Loved them since they were new. Just a good automobile. And we'll get around 21 miles to the gallon on the highway with it and still enjoy driving it. Even rides on the road like a heavy car and handles beautifully without power steering. But it has all the other luxury items that you could put on an automobile.
Now, this is over 35 years old.
36 years old.
Now you're going to get rid of it.
Yeah, I hate to, but I'm going to have
what did you, how deep in your pockets did you have to dig initially to buy this car?
Just stop and think. This car sold for about $2,000 some odd new list. By the time you added all the stuff onto it, paid the tax, it came out to about $3,600, which was a lot of money back in 1951.
And how?
And so, you know, I'm offering it today for $29.50, and somebody's going to steal it. That's all.
Well, I hope they don't steal it. I hope they buy it from you, and I wish you success in selling it. And I'll bet you that it won't be too long before you end up getting another one to replace it somewhere.
Well,
6-car garage or not, right?
That's possible. That's possible. But I would like to say this. The people in Janesville here have been super. Your facilities are great. I've just been enthralled with the hospitality and what a great place it is.
Well, I think that's a camaraderie that comes with the collectors who share a common interest, right?
I think so. We all have the interest of our cars and how to keep them and how to restore them and help other people that are trying to restore and show them where to get the parts and the sheet metal, whatever they may need. They just get in our club and they can immediately have access to 1,650 members throughout the United States, Canada, Sweden, England, New Zealand. All these countries have members in our club.
Yeah, great. Well, Ken, we thank you very much for spending a little time with us, and we'll look for you again at another Kaiser-Frasier.
Beautiful. Glad to have you here, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Well, that's an hour of nostalgia dealing with Kaiser and Frasier automobiles. Hope you've had a good time. And we're going to take this 1951 Kaiser and roll away. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.